Associate Fellow at the Royal United Services Institute. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. So we have been seeing this protest happen in Georgia for the past 4 nights now, and it's likely that they're going to gather tonight as well. What do you think this tells us about the wider political spectrum of the country, and how likely is it for these protests to embroil the whole country into a situation of violence?
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me on your program. Well, I think this is a very serious crisis that we see in Georgia, because it's been 4th day in a row that protesters are gathering together in not only in Tbilisi, the capital city, but also in other cities. And we see that it is quite an unprecedented scale of protests, because we saw also the civil servants, for example, signing the open letter denouncing the current standing of the Georgian government when it comes to the EU accession process. So I think there is definitely a potential for escalation there, because we have already seen quite violent clashes of the protesters and the police that has used water cannons and other tools to try to put down the protests.
Nati, is this really about EU accession talks, or is there more to it?
I think this is in general about Georgia's future. And of course, 86% of the Georgian population wants to see Georgia as part of the European Union. So it is about the EU, but it is also about to what extent Georgia can remain a democratic, free and democratic country that is not succumbed to the Russian influence. And that is a crucial thing here, because Georgia has been aspiring to become member of the EU and NATO for decades now. And we have seen progress on this path, and now the protesters believe that exactly this foreign policy path is being endangered.
Now, we are seeing the president seeking European Union support at this point. Do you think it's likely for this crisis to be resolved domestically, or would you say international intervention appears to be inevitable at this point?
I think international element here is quite important, because, as you know, Georgia recently had elections, and elections are being still contested. And for now, I think the protesters are requesting to have a rerun of these elections, because they do believe that violations happened to the extent and to the scale that the results were manipulated. And in that sense, of course, the response of the international community would be crucial, but also in terms of what sort of other responses we will see. For instance, we already saw that the US has stopped strategic partnership with Georgia, which is a major issue, of course, because we have never seen US-Georgia relations deteriorated to this state. And also there is a discussion about individual EU member countries imposing some sanctions on the officials. And we already saw that the Baltic states have been the front runners in this.
Natia Seskuria, thanks very much for talking to us here on TRT World. I really appreciate your taking out the time.